right, good evening, everyone. Please drop in the chat box if you can hear me. Can you see my screen? Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you can hear me and if you can see my screen, let me know. If you can hear me, let me know. If I'm audible enough, kindly let me know, please. Drop in the chat box. Okay. Someone said he can hear me and can see my screen. Okay. Can I get one confirmation more? Because in the matter of 2 or 3 witnesses, truth is established. If you can hear me, kindly drop in the chat box, kindly drop in the comment section. If you can also see my screen, kindly do so, drop in the comment section, let me know, so that we can quickly proceed to what we have. I'm still waiting to get one more confirmation. I'm waiting to get one more confirmation. All right, thank you. You can hear me loud and clear. All right. Now we will begin from where we stopped yesterday. Yesterday we did an introduction to database management. We have to explain the database interface and all that. So today we will be moving to what we have to be database objects. And one of the key fundamental objects of database, which I said yesterday that Microsoft Access is RDBMS, that's Relational Database Management System. So in understanding that, we need a table. And what do we say a table to be? A table is where data are stored. That's what we said a table is where data are stored, is the warehouse of data, is where data collection of data are stored in a very structured and systematic manner. You need to note that a table in a database table is stored in a structured and systematic manner, following a set principle and a set rules. So we will be going straight to how to create tables, what are the table properties, tables properties, and then look at data entry. That is the key essence in our course outline for day 2 of the database management using Microsoft Access. That's the day 2 of that's the major stuff in our course outline, and there we see some basic calculations that relates to Microsoft Access, some fundamentals and basic calculation that relates to Microsoft Access. So let's quickly enter the database we created yesterday. Yesterday we created this database, and we enable content so that we proceed. Now here we have this. This is a database we created, and now we are going to over to how to create a table. Like I said, how we can create a table so that we can enter data. We can enter data. So we proceed to do that. We go to create. We go to create. Now under create, there are two aspects in this to create table, major aspect to create table in this, but what we are going to be using to focus tonight is the table design. The table design, and in this table design is where I will be bringing to us, explaining some certain things, explaining some key things as regards to table and its properties. Now when we come to it, when we click the table design, we are being brought to this place. We are being brought to this place. You have the table design ribbon. This the table design ribbon. We can insert row, we can delete row, we can modify lookups and likes. Then here are the field name. The field name. What we mean by that is the name each columns. Remember I said yesterday that what column is in database, we call it field. So in each column we need to declare a field name. What name is that column going to bear? We are creating a table of so this and so that. What name, what table is, what name is that field going to bear? Let's take for example, we are to create a staff table. Let's say Soluma is a company, and we are to create a staff table so as to manage the database of our staffs. So the first, what is the first thing we need to get or to put there is, let's begin. Let's say we have this staff ID. Staff ID. Now under the staff ID, what data type do we want? Now this is the place in data type. Now when we talk about data type in Microsoft Access, there are different data type we have access to. There are different data type that are available to us as regards to Microsoft Access, and I'm going to take a bit of time to explain each data type, to what we can use it for, what field name we assign a data type to. In other words, in staff ID, do we want, if the staff ID we are making use of both alphabet, both text and the number, then we can select short text in that staff ID. But if we are making use of only number, let's say the manager, we are assigning him to be 01 or 1, the assistant 2 and stuff like that, then we can make use of number. However, whatever you use here, whatever data type you use here, whenever you are to refer staff ID in another table, remember yesterday I talked about the concept of the primary and the foreign key. Now in this table called the staff ID, now if I'm to refer this staff ID in another table that we will still create, which we can call the staff payroll table. The staff payroll table, this is a table we call the staff profile table. Then in the staff payroll table, if this staff ID there is going to be a foreign key. However, even if we are to relate the table together, understand this: the data type here must correspond to the data type in that particular table. This table, we are calling it staff profile table. Now, in the other table that we call staff payroll table, and the data and the primary key becomes staff account number or stuff like that, and this staff ID is present in that table, whatever data type we choose here will still be the same data type we are going to choose there. Please, let's understand that. It's very, very important that we get that. If you use staff ID here and use short test, for example, and you go to that table and you use number, when you run relationship, it will not go. It will not go. I'm very certain of what I'm telling us this night. So we have to maintain consistency. That is why it's called a database. There must be consistency. There must be structure. Whatsoever staff ID data type is, we are choosing here. In the other table, that will still be the same data type we are going to use. That's number one. Number two, there is a data type we have here called auto number. Auto number. This data type called auto number is used once in a particular table. I want us to get that is used once in a particular table. What that means is that if I select staff ID to be auto number, that means I cannot use it again for any other field in this particular table. It's being used once in a particular table. That's the rule for this auto number. So when we be having that understanding, we need to know on what aspect are we going to use it. But for the purpose of this night, I'm going to use this auto number staff ID. But however, in the real life stuff, we most likely use short test, because some companies use a combination of alphabet and number, maybe M101, that's manager 101 or stuff like that, to assign ID to each staff. And remember, this particular field is a unique field, so no staff will have the same ID. So because it's a unique field, remember yesterday we talked about primary key, and we said that primary key is a unique identifier. As we are creating our table and defining, we also have to assign a primary key. We also have to assign what we call primary key, so as to give our table a kind of inferential integrity. So how do we assign a primary key to this? I will click on this table and then click this. So when I click that, you will see a key, you will see a kind of key, somehow key by the side of staff ID. Now this is description. I will be talking about these table properties. Now the staff ID in this, let me take a bit of time to look at, for us to see what we have here. The field size. Now under this field size, is already auto number, which is integer, where you don't really have anything to talk about that. But let's move to the next one, which we let's say we call it first name. We call it first name, and in this first name we are going to use short test. Now what is the difference between the short test and long test? Short test is, it accepts characters between 0 to 255, as we can see here, between 0 to 255, while long test accepts stuff more than that. And also long test, how will I explain it to us now? The short test, for example, if I'm typing stuff here for short test and I hit enter, it will it will go to the next field in the table. But if peradventure I select long test here and I'm typing stuff and I hit enter, it will not, in the read data entry, it will break down into the another line. That's one of the difference between long test and short test. Apart from having to accept more than 255 characters, that's also one of the differences between short test and long test. Now look at this. Under this short test, it's showing us 255 characters, and of course I hardly see a name that is above 50. People's name that the character is above 50, 40, and the likes. Why is this very important? Let's say you are building a database, and you are creating table for company. Why this is important is that company might have series of tables. They might have series of tables in that database. The more number of these, the more the table size, the more the space of that particular database. So we encourage you that if peradventure the company is putting data in thousands, tens of thousands, imagine how this will be accumulating, and that will make the database to be heavy. It will increase the size. It will make the size of the database to be heavy. So we encourage you come here, maybe let's say 35. In other words, we are limiting this first name to 35 characters. That's what it means. We are limiting it to 35 characters. Now, this thing here, which is required, when you look at this, if you are with me, if you are going alongside with me with your system, you will see something below here, required. It's asking you that when you are doing data entry, is it necessary? Is it a must that the first name must be there? Is it necessary? Is it must that we have the person's first name? And in most cases we need that if it's staff profile, so we put yes on that. Or you come here, you select the yes button. So what that means is that when we are entering data into this table and there is no first name there, then that will not go. So that is a very important aspect as well. Then the next, let's say we put last name will still be short test. Then let's say contact address will still be short test. Let's say we have phone number. Now in this, phone number will be short test, but some of you might ask me, why do I have to use short test instead of number? Because we have number here. Now if short test can accept both number and test and also character, maybe you want to put in your phone number plus something, plus 234 and stuff like that, so you will be rest assured that short test will accept it. But if you put number, those special characters will not be accepted, or you want to write your number, or you want to write something like this plus 234 hash hash, so this stuff like that, it will not accept it. So that's why I mostly encourage that you use short text instead of number. Then we also, in the staff profile, let's say email is also short text. Then we can put states of origin. short tests. We can also put marital status. Now, under marital status, there are two ways we can do that. You know, marital status, instead of putting short tests, we can put our drop down button. We can put it in our table so that it will be easy for us, and that we can use uh, um, uh, okay, let me go through this way. Let me, after I will show us what the lookup is, let's go to lookup wizard. Instead of going through this down place, let's go to lookup wizard so that we see what that is as well. We see what that is as well. So when you click on lookup wizard, this dialog box will appear, and you have two options. One is that I want lookup field to get the values from another table or query. If you have any table or query in any place, you can. But here we are typing our own values. That's I will type in the value that I want. You select that option, and then you move to next. This is now where you begin to type in the values you want. Let's say marital status, we have single, and then we have married, we have divorced, if is necessary, if you feel is necessary. Then we have widow, okay. Now let's say this is what we have as regards to the options. Then we say next, limit to list. You limit it to the list you have. When you click on next, you limit it to the list you have. So you select that, you check that box. You make sure that box is checked so that it will be only the list you have there, and then you say finish. Now you have created that. If you look at this lookup here, you see what you have. You see what you have here. That thing we type in comes to this place. It comes to this place. Now in another lookup, I will use this aspect of lookup here instead of going to lookup wizard, instead of going over to lookup wizard. All right. Now the next we can have here is under the staff profile, we can have we have phone number, we have email, we have state of origin, we have marital status, we have academic qualification. So under the academic qualification, we will now come to use lookup. Our lookup, instead of going to lookup wizard, we click inside this. You will see display control. Inside the next stuff on display control, look at this drop down button here. Then you select the combo box. You select combo box. Now in this combo box that will appear, this, you come to this table / query, and then you select value list. You select value list. Now in this value list, now you now begin to put your row source. You begin to, under the row source, you can now put in, under academic qualification, you can say no formal education, then comma, you say FSLC, that's First School Living Certificate. Then you can put SSCE/G/GCE, comma, you can now put ND/NCE, comma, you can now also put HND slash BSc, comma, then MSc slash MBA, comma, PhD, let's say this is what we have. Then we move to the next one. What we are doing here, we are creating table fields so as to be able to enter data. Without these fields, there is nothing like data entry. What are we entering? Under which field? In what field are we entering? So we have to first define our fields, add the data types, make sure we assign data type to each field we are defining. So that's on that. Then the next thing is we can put their date of birth. Under date of birth, we select date / time. Now under date of birth, we select date / time. We go to general. Now under that, you see this format. You go and you click the drop down what kind of date you want, what format. Here you see the general format, but now we can come here and say we need the short date, something like this or something like this. I prefer this type. You select it. Now, is it required? Is not. Date of birth is not required. It's not a must. So we move to the next one. Then we put, you can say position. I'm just trying to put certain things that is necessary. Positions. Then let's say so as to deal with the things we have. Passport. Now under passport, when you see passport comes under attachment. You use attachment because we are going to bring in the passport. You are going to bring in the passport. So the data type you are going to use is the attachment. You select that. Then you now put disability. Is the person disabled in any way? Is the person disabled in any way? So in this case, you are going to use the data type called yes or no. Is a yes or no data. So you are going to use a data type called yes or no. Then the next one, the hyperlink, if there is any site or whatever, let's say company website. I just put this so as to assign this the hyperlink. Then next of kin. Okay, now this is we will next of kin. Then we put basic salary so as we can use the currency. Basic salary is anything, currency is money related, so we use this currency. Now let's say these are the fields we have. As regards to the staff profile. Let's say that's the field we have. Now, under currency, if you need decimal numbers, if you don't need decimal number, you can come here and say 0. But in currency, we make it in 2 decimal places. This is standard. That is standard. We make it 2 decimal places. So that's what we have in currency. And then under this currency as well, you look at if you want euros, you put it in euros. General currency is in dollars. Fees, standard, percentage, and that's what we have. So we leave it under currency. We leave it in currency. We leave it on that currency. I just want to call our attention to that. Okay, now we have short test, hyperlink, yes or no, attachment. We have used what we call it lookup wizard to place certain things. Also, we can also put here gender. So in gender, we can still go through this place. In gender, we come here, select combo. Then under query here, we select value list. Then here we put male, comma, female. Okay, that's that. So once we are done, we have entered our fields and the data type. Like we can see here, these are fields and data type. This is staff ID. We use the auto number, and that staff ID is our primary key. What that means is that there won't be any repetition. There won't be any duplicate. So once we are done, we come to this place. You see this star. We close it, or you come to this place to save. So any of the two, but let me use this for now. So once I click on it to close it, it will ask me, do you want to save changes to the table 1? I will say yes. Now once I say yes, it will bring me to this place. What name of the table? What's the name do I want to call the table? So I will first of all make it use TBL. This TBL is by choice. You can, why I put that TBL, so that when I look at it, if I run query, I can differentiate my table from my query easily. So I will first set TBL, then let me put something like underscore staff profile. Okay, now that becomes the table. That becomes the table name for this, and then I will say okay. Now you can see here that having created this table, this is where it now shows, and it's showing me the database object. The name of the object is table. Now here, if I double click on this, I will open this table, so as to begin to enter data. I will begin to enter the records. These are records. These are fields. Everything, this record 1. When I'm done with it, I will move to record 2. You see how database work. It's not that it gives you access to enter name at any point in time, at anywhere you want. You have to first of all enter the first one before you have access to move to the second. There is nothing you can do here. Here is blank. But as you are entering records, it will keep on going down. And let's check the things we did. Under marital status, look at it. When we click here, you see there is a drop down button. So once we click the drop down button, we see the options that we selected. And why is this very important? So that we will not come every now and then. Let's say you are entering thousands of data, you are entering hundreds of data. Every now and then you come here to be typing single or to be typing married. No, once you get there, you click and you select. Then under the academic qualification, the same thing. You see it, no formal education, F this and that, down to this. Then under date of birth, you see your date icon. So from here you can click down, and then you move back to the date where or you type it within, or you type it yourself depending on you. So then the position, and this one here is the attachments. These are the things we created. These are the attachments where you can bring in the passport of the person, the picture of the staff. In other words, if I double click here, it brings me this attachment box, the attachment box. So I can click this add. It will take me to my directory folder in my system. So anywhere I have the staff picture, I bring it in. Let's say this is that. Okay, let's say I just to bring this. If let's say this is the picture, and then I will click on it and say open. You can now see the image is there. Then I will say okay. So you see that once I say okay, instead of 0 is now 1. Instead of 0, you are now having 1. That means there is attachment in it. And this is the box for yes or no. This is the box for yes or no. In other words, if the employee has any form of disability, then we click here. That we check it. So that means anybody that comes sees it and know that yes, this employee has disability, then we can bring in the website, and then next of kin, this talks about the salary, and here is gender. Then when you click that, you see either male or female. So this we have here is something that we can enter. This is first name, last name. There are other things that we will get to understand, but now we have created a table called staff profile. We have created a table called staff profile in this that will give in the field names. Now, for us to create another table so as to understand relationship, we can select, we can create another table. So let's close this one. Okay, let's close this one. Then we go to create another table. We go to table design. Now, under this table design, we are going to start a new table. This is the aspect that we want us to pay very serious attention, because it will involve certain things that we need to. It will involve certain things that we need to know. To involve certain things. So let's proceed. Now let's proceed. This is the one we can call the payroll, staff payroll table. And in that, I will want to begin with account ID. Let me begin with this with account ID. Now, under the account ID, because we are going to use the account number, we can if it's totally the bank account number. If it's totally bank account number, let's use number. because it's 10. There is no character assigned to it. So we can use number. Then we can have here first name. That will be short text. And then before that, let's remember to assign our primary key. Our account ID will be our primary key. Then we have that. Then after that, I want to insert a row. I want to insert a row. That row, let me call it staff ID. Let me call it staff ID. Now remember that our staff ID in the other table, this staff profile table, is auto number. So we are going to select auto number. Remember what I said earlier. Whatever is the data type of the staff ID in this table, this staff ID is our primary key. In this table, staff ID is our primary key, and the data type of it in this table is auto number. So the same data type is what we are going to select here. That's what I was explaining earlier when we started. So that's the data type we are going to select here. If not, if you select any other data type, pay attention. If you select any other data type, this table will be created, yes. But when you want to relate the table together, when you want to relate this table together with this table called staff payroll, it will not work. You will not get the perfect result. It will not work. So that's why we have to be very, very careful when we are creating our table to be able to establish the function of the primary and foreign key. I was so specific about it yesterday to explain really what it is. We need to be able to establish that. The same data type is more like you are in Nigeria, you are a Yoruba, or you are Igbo, or you are Hausa Ibibio. You registered in Nigeria, your passport bears Nigeria, you are in Europe, then you move to another country, and then you begin to say you're a Nigerian, but you from Igbo tribe, or you have Nigeria. Instead of saying you are from Igbo tribe, you are saying you are from Yoruba tribe. It will not match when they have to search. When there ought to be a search that relates your information, it will match the same way it is in database. The same way it is in database. When you are doing anything, it has to be consistent. There shouldn't be at any time where there will be inconsistency in what we do or in what we are defining. That is why, let me explain this to us. That is why your transaction must be reversed unless the database back-end personnel are not being truthful. Why? Because three things must happen for every transaction to be successful. If you make a transaction in the bank, either you transfer via your app or you transfer over the desk or through ATM, three things must happen. And those three things must be consistent. It must happen. If it's not consistent, if it didn't happen, then that transaction is not complete. Then the system will trigger a reversal. That's what the database is all about. The system will trigger a reversal. What are the three things that must happen for every transaction to be complete? First, there must be a debit. There must be a debit. The account that issued the transfer must be debited. Money moves from somewhere. When money moves out of somewhere, it must be debited from that place it moves out. And then there must be a credit. In other words, money is going to somewhere. It cannot hang in the air. So once it moves out, it must be credited. It must enter another database. When it moves out from a database, it must enter another database. It must enter another table. And that is the second thing that must happen. There must be a credit. And then the third thing that will happen is that there must be recording. It will enter in the journal. There must be record. In other words, a proof that there is a credit and debit. So if these three things doesn't happen, then the system, if in a way the network wasn't through, that money left but it didn't get to its destination, the person wasn't credited and that, then the system will trigger a reversal. And some banks or some institution will tell you within 24 hours. In other words, the database has been programmed to wait for 24 hours. If the transaction did not complete, then trigger a reversal. And that's where you see within 24 hours or so, your money is reverted back. In some database, if it did not happen immediately, let there be a reverse immediately to the database from which the money proceeds out from. So that is why consistent. That's why it's a rule of database that everything must be consistent. Everything must definitely be consistent. Now, having established that, that's one of the things that I'm using this. That's why I'm using that to explain to us as regards to what we have here. I want us to really understand this. This is more tricky than Microsoft Word. That's why I'm taking much of my time to explain this. A lot of persons don't really like Access. A lot of persons don't really like Access, but it's a very perfect tool for small and medium businesses to handle their records, to handle their data excellently. Okay, we proceed to the next. We have last name, which will be short test. We can have department short test. We can have position short test. We can have email. Then we can now have basic salary. Basic salary. Now, under the basic salary, we select currency. Remember, in our previous the other table, we have basic salary, which is currency. So here now, we are preparing a payroll. Now, apart from basic salary, in most companies, there is what we call allowances. Some have transport allowance, health allowance, house allowance, feeding allowance, as the case may be. So let's say we have a transport as an allowance. Let's say we have health as allowance. Let's say we have some have feeding, let's say housing. Let's say we have these three stuff. Now here, under this place, this transport, we are going to select a data type called calculated. Pay attention. This is where we are going to do some small calculation. Now we are going to select a data type called calculated. Now in this calculated, that's where we are going to put some expressions, some functions, some calculations. Now let's take for example that the company says that the transport allowance, the person transport allowance is 12% of his basic. That we are going to give you, we are going to pay our staffs 12 as allowance, 12% of their basic salary. Depending their basics, what their basic salary is, they are going to receive 12% of that basic salary. What that is that in the their basic salary multiplied by 12%, that's what they are going to get as regards to their transport allowance. So what do we do here? We put this bracket. Now this block bracket, please pay attention. This block bracket, not this one, not this type. What we use in declaring this is this block bracket. So in that block bracket, we are going to say we are going to type here basic salary, then we close it, and then we multiply. That's shift 8. If you are following me, that's shift 8. Then you open, and then no, not open. Now we are using 12%. Now get this, I want to say this. In database, in programming, in whether Microsoft Access, whether Excel, SQL, Python, programming, anything you are writing a code, this rule is this, that if you are to type a number, you just type it straight. But if you are typing character or text, you put it in quotation. Get it? If you are typing character or text, you put it in quotation, either double quotation. I prefer double quotation. I use double quotation. But if you are putting number, you just write it straight. So this basic salary times 0.12, that is the 12%. If you convert 12% to number, to decimal, this is what it will give you. In other words, 12 divided by 100, that is 0.12, 0.12. So that is what you will do for the transport allowance. You are going to say basic salary. Please, when you are typing, make sure that the letters, your spelling here is the same as your spelling here. Remember, database follows consistency. Don't say, you should understand now that it's a mistake. I forgot to put arrow, I forgot to put this number. There must be the same spelling as we have here, the same spelling. Let's get that. Let's understand that. So once you say that times 0.12, then you say okay. That's one settled. Then we come to health. We click on health and we come to calculated. We come to calculated, and then we have this. Now, basic salary, you close. Let's say the health allowance, let's say the company said is 15%. Let's say the company said 15%. As they can, let's say 15%, we now say shift 8 times 0.15. 0.15. Then we say okay. We say okay. Now that is calculated. Then we come to housing and we go to calculate. We also have that basic salary. You close times, let's say we say housing allowance, the company said they are going to pay 25% of the basic. Then we said 0.25. 0.25. Now of the basic, we say okay. We are creating staff payroll. Then here there are apart from allowance, there is also deduction, like tax. The money that will be deducted from the staff's salary, like tax, like savings, pensions, and what have you. So let's say here we have savings, and the company now says we are going to be saving 10% of your salary. 10% of your basic salary, we are going to be keeping it for you as part of your retirement benefit or part of your benefit. So we are going to have here basic salary, you close, and then shift 8, that's to multiply, times, then 0.1, that's 10% of, that's 10%, that's 0.1. And then we say okay. Then we move to the next one. Let's say tax. We have it to tax. Then under that, your tax also becomes your basic. Let's say basic salary times 13%, some 13, some 15, as the case may be, and that's 0.13. And you say okay. Then after that, we have what we call gross. Your gross salary, your gross salary. Now your gross, let me use gross only so as to minimize my typing. Now, under the gross, gross will now be, when you come to gross, gross will now be basic salary, you close, plus transport. Ensure that the spellings are correct, plus health, plus housing. So we ensure that we put it in a block bracket. So this is your gross salary, because our gross salary is our basic salary plus the allowances. That's what we give us, our gross. That's what we give us, gross salary, basic salary plus our allowances. So when you type, ensure to cross-check the spellings as regards to what we have here. And then we say okay. The next thing you have is your net. Net. That's net salary. That's the amount you will be paid at the end of the month. So in the net is your gross minus your deductions. So minus savings, minus tax. So that is your net salary. We are doing this once and for all so that we will not be doing it one by one when we are entering data. We can give it to a novice and tell the novice just be entering this data for us inside Access. Every other thing will be taking place. So after that net, then the next we calculate is the annual salary, and the annual salary will now be net times 12. If the company is doing 13 months salary, you can say net times 13, but generally is 12. So you say net times 12. Let's say we want to take it a step further, and we say we want weekly, to know at the weekly salary how much we are going to pay per week if we are to take to pay weekly, then it will be annual by 52. In other words, 52 weeks makes 1 year. So it's annual divided by 52. Then our daily wage will be, your guess is as good as mine, will be annual divided by 365. Okay, that is what we have. Our time is very, very fast spent. So this is what we have here. Other informations we can put here, maybe maybe payment receipt, that will come as attachment. To attach the receipt, payment receipt, that will come as attachment. Then account type, that will be, okay, let's use, that will be, what do we have it here? Combo. I'm trying to be fast so as to wrap up this section. Then we have savings, we have current, let's say savings and current. All right. Okay, once we are done, let's say this is what we have. We will click this and then we say yes. Now we call it TBL underscore staff payroll. So with that, we say okay. Now we have created the second table called staff payroll. Now here, I want to show us this so that we understand what we have been doing all this while. Now let's say here that this person's salary is minimum wage. Let's say the current now we are hearing is 62,000. I don't know, but I heard. So when you click that, you see that 62,000, let's say 62,000 is the minimum wage, the basic salary. Now you see that every other thing takes place. That's what we have been doing so that we don't do this calculation over and over again. The person is receiving 7,440 naira as transport allowance, health allowance is 9,300 and stuff like this. Savings, tax is paying tax, gross is this, and so on and so forth. This place you are seeing as being hash here is because the size. When you double click, if you double click, you will see the size. So we can close those weekly and daily. We can close that and then come to payroll and right click. I forgot to let us know what I did. You right click and you come to design view to go back to this place. Then you come to this weekly. Now under this weekly, you see what you have here. Decimal. Now if you click on it, you can now change it if you want it a single number. In other words, it will approximate. If you want it a single number, you select, but let's leave it to that decimal. Then you come to format. Under format, if is, I think, is already in currency, but if it's not in currency, you put it in currency. Then you come to precision. Now you come to decimal places rather. Now under these decimal places, this is where you can select 2 decimal places so that that will be corrected. So you select that 2 decimal places, then you come to this one as well. You can come to that okay, not this one, the format. Under the format currency, then decimal places, we select 2 and then we close and say yes, we want to save. So if we double click it and we open, you see that our weekly is now in 2 decimal places, our daily is now in 2 decimal places. And because of our time, we will be stopping here. We might not have our time to go fully into data entry, but tomorrow we will look at that, how we enter data into these tables, and also create one more table so that we can relate these tables, go through table relationship, talk about forms and reports. That is, from tomorrow we'll see how we can achieve that. So it's on this note that we have come to the end of this class. By tomorrow I will explain all this, which is more similar for us, as in Microsoft Word. This place is very similar, find and stuff like that. I will be explaining certain things here. I will also be explaining certain things here in the table fields, certain things as we have here also as regards to the table. And that is mostly what we will face tomorrow. Ensure that we master this aspect, because table is a very important aspect in Microsoft Access database. Now that is where we will wrap it up. I want to say a very big thank you to each and every one of us that are available for tonight. See you guys tomorrow. Do have